Hello and good day, class. So, class, today we are going to discuss a comprehension so that you can learn how do you answer certain questions in a comprehension. So, this one I have chosen because it also would enlighten you on how do you solve a comprehension. Okay, so I'm going to read this passage and then I'm going to describe to you how do you answer a question in for one particular question, and later on you will be required to answer the rest of the questions and you will share your answers with me and I'll grade them. Okay, so I'll have the knowledge about that. Okay, what have you done? Okay, so let's start. So, implementing details. Sometimes in exam you are asked to read a text before you answer questions in it. Where this happens, you need to apply the reading strategies you have been developing throughout key stages. Okay, read the following short story closely and think about the details you are given. Now the important thing about this passage is that you will have to answer the questions from this passage. However, you will also have to answer between the lines. So if there is something that is not written in this passage, you still need to understand it. You still need to find it out. Okay, you have to improvise. You have to find out. Okay, what does this mean? So what is the implementation? What is the implications of that particular word or that particular phrase that has been used? What does it mean and what does that imply? And then you will answer your questions. So let me read the passage. This is a very interesting passage. The breadwinner. The parents of a boy of 14 were waiting for him to come home with his first week's wages. The mother had laid the table and was cutting some slices of bread and butter for tea. She was a little woman with a pinched face and a spare body, dressed in a blue blouse and skirt, the front of the skirt covered with a starched white apron. She looked tired and frequently sighed heavily. The father, sprawling inelegantly in an old armchair by the fireside, legs outstretched, was little too. He had watery blue eyes and a heavy brown mustache, which he sucked occasionally. These people were plainly poor, for the room, though clean, was meanly furnished, and the thick pieces of bread and butter were the only food on the table. As she prepared the meal, the woman from time to time looked contemptuously at her husband. He ignored her, raising his eyebrows, humming or tapping his teeth now and then with his fingernails, making a pretense of being profoundly bored. You'll keep your hands off the money, said the woman, obviously repeating something that she had already said several times before. I know what will happen to it if you get hold on it of it. He'll give it to me. I'll pay the rent and buy us a bit of food and not go into the till at the nearest public house. You shut your mouth, said the man quietly. I'll not shut my mouth, cried the woman in a quick burst of anger. Why should I shut my mouth? You have been boss here for long enough. I've put up with it when you were bringing money into the house, but I'll not put up with it now. You're nobody here, understood? Nobody. I am boss, and he'll hand the money to me. We'll see about that, said the man, leisurely poking the fire. Nothing more was said for about 5 minutes. Then the boy came in. He did not look older than 10 or 11 years. He looked absurd in long trousers. The whites of his eyes against his black face gave him a startled expression. The father got to his feet. Where's the money? He demanded. The boy looked from one to the other. He was afraid of his father. He licked his pale lips. Come on now, said the man. Where's the money? Don't give it to him, said the woman. Don't give it to him, Billy. Don't give it to him, Billy. Give it to me. The father advanced on the boy, his teeth showing in a snarl under his big mustache. Where's the money? He almost whispered. The boy looked him straight in the eyes. I lost it, he said. You what? Cried his father. I lost it, the boy repeated. The man began to shout and wave his hands about. Lost it? Lost it? What are you talking about? How could you lose it? It was in a packet, said the boy, a little envelope. I lost it. Where did you lose it? I don't know. I must have dropped it in the street. Did you go back and look for it? The boy nodded. I couldn't find it, he said. The man made a noise in his throat, half ground, half mourn, the sort of a noise that an animal would make. So you lost it, did you? He said. He stepped back a couple of paces and took off his belt, a wide, thick belt with a heavy brass buckle. Come here, he said. The boy, biting his lower lip so as to keep back the tears, advanced, and the man raised his arm. The woman, motionless until that moment, leapt forward and seized it. Her husband, finding strength in his blind rage, pushed her aside easily. He brought the belt down on the boy's back. He beat him unmercifully about the body and legs. The boy sank to the floor but did not cry out. When the man had spent himself, he put on the belt and pulled the boy to his feet. Now you'll get off to bed, he said. The lad wants some food, said the woman. He'll go to bed. Go and wash yourself. Without a word, the boy went into the scullery and washed his hands and face. When he had done this, he went straight upstairs. The man sat down at the table, ate some bread and butter, and drank 2 cups of tea. The woman ate nothing. She sat opposite him, never taking her eyes from his face, looking with hatred at him. Just as before, he took no notice of her, ignored her, behaved as if she was not there at all. When he had finished the meal, he went out. Immediately he had shut the door, the woman jumped to her feet and ran upstairs to the boy's room. He was sobbing bitterly, his face buried in the pillow. She sat on the edge of the bed and put her arms about him, pressed him close to her breast, ran her fingers through his disordered hair, whispered endowments, consoling him. He let her do this, finding comfort in her caresses and relief in his own tears. After a while, his whispering ceased. He raised his head and smiled at her, his wet eyes bright. Then he put his hand under the pillow and withdrew a small, dirty envelope. Here's the money, he whispered. She took the envelope and opened it and pulled out a long strip of paper with some figures on it, a 10-shilling note and a sixpence. The Breadwinner by Leslie Howard. Okay, so some of the words that you might not have understood. So, for example, you have them here. So, spare, this means thin or lean. Then, meanly means poorly or not generously, very weak, very less, you can say. Scullery is a back kitchen. Okay, endowments like words of affection and praise, or not praise, but actually words of affection, of love, endowments. 10 shilling again, currency, old money. So 50 pence, it was equal to 50 pence, and the 6 pence, that is equal to 2.5 pence. So something that is the old money. Okay, now the important things. How do you answer a question? So there are two important things over here. When answering a question on a text, you need to find the relevant details in the text, read the question carefully, then find the relevant details in the text, and then interpret and comment on this detail. You see, you do not just copy paste, you interpret it and then comment on it. Moving forward, we will start with this. Now you have a question. Okay, so I want you to do something for me. Do the steps as I go with you. Okay, so we'll do these together so that you understand how do you answer a question. what impressions are you given of the mother? This is the question, okay? What impressions are you given of the mother from lines 1 to 6? Okay, from lines 1 to 6, we need to read it again and see what are the impressions that we get. Now, what do we do in first step? We highlight the most important things. We just note down the points that we need to have in our mind. We can note them in our mind, we can note them on paper, it's up to you. So the first thing that you should do is to reread lines 1 to 6. This is where you are given information about the mother. Highlight or take note of details that seem particularly significant. कुछ आपने पहली बारी में highlight की होंगी in the first reading. Now you'll highlight the remaining information that has been that is directly relevant to this question. So what impression, again, we are going to see what are the impressions that we get are given of the mother from lines 1 to 6. Okay, so we'll go back. The parents of a boy 14 were waiting for him to come home with his first week's wages. Okay, so nothing over here. The mother had laid the table and was cutting some slices of bread and butter for tea. So she was the one who was working. She was a working lady. Okay, she had laid the table and was cutting for the bread and tea. She was a little woman with a pinched face. Okay, now this is the impression that we get and details about her. She was a little woman. So little woman, pinched face, and a spare body. Okay, then dressed in a blue blouse and skirt, the front of the skirt covered with starched white apron. Okay, so starched white apron, this blue blouse and skirt. She looked tired and frequently sighed heavily. So she looked tired and frequently sighed heavily. These are the important things that you would highlight. So we'll go forward with the questions. So here we go. She was a little woman with a pinched face and spare body, as discussed, dressed in a blue blouse and skirt, the front of the skirt covered with a starched white apron. She looked tired and frequently sighed heavily. Now, this is the information that we get about her. Okay. Now, what do we do next? Now, you'll ask yourself questions like the ones over here. Okay. Why has the writer used particular words like pinched and sighed? You have to think about it. Okay. Why did he use these words and what do they mean? And what do they imply? You have to go through all these steps. Okay, what is the significance of the starched white apron? You see, I focused on starched white apron, he focused on starched white apron. So what is its significance? What does it tell you? And what is the writer trying to tell the reader about the mother? Okay, questions are clear. So let's try to answer these. Pinched and sigh, अगर इससे आप पहले देखें तो there is a little woman also written over there. So a little woman indicates that she was little. She wasn't very tall, or again, pinched face and spare body also indicates that she was slim or most probably malnourished. And you get further evidence for malnourishment from the statement that she looked tired and frequently sighed heavily. So and again, based on the food available on the table, what she was doing, she was working, room was clean, everything was clean, her starch was apron. So it indicates that she works hard and she's quite malnourished from all the evidence that we get from this document. Okay, the importance or significance of the starched white apron. Well, if you see, the starched white apron indicates that, okay, what is a starched white apron? So it has been washed thoroughly. It has been stained and it has been washed thoroughly again and again. So it was now starched. Okay. So this indicates that she likes to be clean and tidy. Okay. And lastly, what the author is trying to tell you about the mother, that she was not well fed, she was sad, she was not very happy. However, she still liked to keep clean and she was hardworking. So these are the information that we get from the text. Now you see, कुछ information ऐसी है, अगेन मैं उर्दू में आपको इसलिए बता रहा हूं so that you understand, कि जो आपको टेक्स्ट में नहीं है, ये बात मैंने कई बार रिपीट कर दी अब तक, तो आपको उसको इंप्लाई करना है कि इस लफ्ज का मतलब क्या है, इससे क्या चीज पता चली हमें. जैसे कि हमने पिंच से और स्पेयर से मतलब निकाला, लिटिल वुमन से मतलब स्टार्च वाइट एप्रन से मतलब निकाल रहे हैं हम. इस तरह शी लुक टायर्ड एंड फ्रीक्वेंटली साइड हेवीली, कि क्यों? शी वाज सैड, शी वाजंट हैप्पी, शी वाज टायर्ड. सो अगेन मेल नरिश्ड. ये सारे मतलब हमने इन स्टेटमेंट्स में से निकाले हैं। इसी तरह से आपको भी इन स्टेटमेंट्स को पढ़ना होगा, पूरी टेक्स्ट के अंदर ही, हर टेक्स्ट के अंदर ही ऐसे होगा, और उसके मतलब भी खुद डिराइव करने होंगे। और आंसर करते हुए, ये भी मैं आपको उर्दू में क्लियर कर दूं, आंसर करते हुए आपने दोनों चीजें देनी है। ये नहीं कि सिर्फ अपने वर्ड्स लिखने, और ये भी नहीं कि सिर्फ टेक्स्ट के वर्ड्स लिखने। आंसर कैसे करना है? जब आप इस क्वेश्चन को आंसर करने लगेंगे, आपने सबसे पहली चीज जो करनी है, आपने टेक्स्ट में से एविडेंस ढूंढना है। ये जैसे कि यहां पर था, पिंच्ड फेस एंड स्पेयर बॉडी, स्टार्च वाइट एप्रन, शी लुक टायर्ड एंड फ्रीक्वेंटली साइड हेवीली। अब आपने जब आंसर करना है कि जी शी वाज मेल नरिश्ड, शी वाज स्लिम एंड मेल नरिश्ड, शी वाज हंग्री मे बी और समथिंग, so when you write this, which is indicated, you will also write this is indicated in the statements that she was a little woman with a pinched face and a spare body. You see, she liked to keep we also find out that she liked to keep clean and tidy, which is indicated by, again, the starched white apron. अगेन अब इसकी सीक्वेंस हम चेंज कर सकते हैं, आगे जिसकी सीक्वेंस किस तरह से लिखी जा सकती है इसको कितना, वो भी हम अभी डिस्कस करने जा रहे हैं, ठीक है? Next step. So what does these things suggest? So a pinched face and a spare body, she was unhappy. A starched white apron, she kept herself clean and tidy. She frequently sighed heavily. She was unwell or underfed. Again, malnourished या underfed, again same meaning. अब इन सबको लिखना कैसे, जवाब कैसे बनाना है? Finally, you need to answer the question, what impressions are you given of the mother from lines 1 to 6? By putting the details together with what they tell you, the following answer is annotated to show you the student's thoughts as he wrote. ओके, अब एक स्टूडेंट का आंसर जो होना चाहिए, जो एक अच्छा आंसर होगा, जो आपको बेसिकली यू कैन से के विच विल गिव यू द एबिलिटी टू राइट अ गुड आंसर, विच विल टीच यू हाउ टू राइट अ गुड आंसर। सो ये एक आंसर हम आपसे शेयर कर रहे हैं। ओके, फाइनली यू नीड टू आंसर द क्वेश्चन, yeah, sorry, we are here. So how does this answer go? The mother was a small woman. Okay, text से लिया हमने, उसके बारे में बता दिया, अब एग्जैक्ट कॉपी पेस्ट नहीं किया. So I'll read it and explain it to you. ठीक है? The mother was a small woman. She might not have been very well. Again, she might not have been very well. Why? As she is described as having a pinched face and a spare body. ठीक है? She wore a starched white apron over the front of her skirt. As the apron was starched, it suggests she took care to stay clean and tidy. She looked tired and sighed heavily, which implies that she was unhappy or that something was worrying her. Now, this is a very, very good answer. 3 पॉइंट्स निकाले उसने. अगेन इट्स अप टू यू, आप 3 निकालें, 4 निकालें, जैसे हमने 1-2 एक्स्ट्रा निकाल लिए थे. इट्स अप टू यू हाउ मेनी पॉइंट्स डू यू गेट एंड हाउ डू यू एक्सप्लेन देम with evidence from the text. You are going to write your answer in your own words. You are going to explain your interpretations, your implications, what do you imply from the text, and then give the evidence as well that this was stated in the text. That is why I think this is like this. So just read the answer. It is a beautiful answer. 10 on 10 answer. Okay. The mother was a small woman. She might not have been very well. As she is described as having a pinched face and a spare body, she wore a starched white apron over the front of her skirt. As the apron was starched, it suggests she took care to stay clean and tidy. She looked tired and sighed heavily, which implies that she was unhappy or that something was worrying her. Again, so the comments that you should read. I wrote in standard English as this is the appropriate form to write answers. The story tells me she is little. I have used my own words small for my explanation. Again, उसने small कर दिया little को. I know starched means it's been made as crease free as possible. Okay, so starched again means कि वो wash करके उसको press किया गया अच्छी तरह से. Okay, so she is interested in staying clean and tidy. Then instead of saying it suggests, again for variety I use the phrase which implies that. Okay, I cannot be sure about this, therefore I say I might because I am not sure. I introduce evidence to back up my point. I use the words as she is described as to introduce my evidence. For variety, I gave my evidence first in this sentence. तो अब वेराइटी करने के लिए उसने पहले एविडेंस दिया, उसके बाद उसके ऊपर कमेंट दिया. आई इंट्रोड्यूस द एविडेंस विद द वर्ड्स एज एंड आई फॉलो it with it suggests to introduce my thoughts about what starch tells me. And you see, अब उसने एक ही चीज नहीं पैटर्न फॉलो किया, एक ही पैटर्न फॉलो नहीं किया कि एक बात की उसके बारे में एविडेंस दिया, फिर उसके बारे में एविडेंस दिया कि इट सजेस्ट. उसने हर स्टेटमेंट के अंदर वैरायटी दी है. This is what makes it a 10 on 10 answer. You see, I hope by now you have learned how to answer a comprehension. So I'll give this to you as an assignment. So the next activities are your tasks. Okay, so I'm gonna share this with you so that you can answer these questions. You can see all these questions are over here, so that you can answer these questions, and so that I can gauge that how well do you do on this. Okay, so that's it for today. Because I'm going to give you this assignment, you have to study this. Moreover, I'm also going to share a essay so that you can do it. Thank you.